Hi you guys, so in this video I'm gonna rebuild an old Nikki carb. You found them in a lot of Japanese cars. I think you've only found them in Japanese cars if I'm not mistaken. This one I think comes from a L18 or a L16 Nissan. I've got a couple here. I'm gonna show you two of them that are pretty much the same. One has got bigger chokes than the other one, and one has got secondary choke vacuum, secondary vacuum to open the second choke, and the other one's mechanical. But I'm gonna rebuild the one, and I'll show you bits and bobs about the carb. Here we go. So here they are. I found this kit for it. It's a Japanese made kit, very good quality, and it says the Datsun L18 pickup, and I'm fairly convinced that's the carb. There's some bits and pieces missing on this one. But I bought this Hong Kong model, and I'll use some of the bits and bobs on that one. Like that bracket is missing and this link is missing, so I'll put that on this carby of mine to rebuild it. Maybe a couple of screws here and there. But you can see the difference on these two carbs. This one is a little taller. This one, the float is the other way around than the Datsun. This has got electric choke. This one has got a manual choke. This one is very complete. If we turn it that way, you can see this one has got the pod to open the second choke on vacuum. This one has got that little butterfly to help open it, but the secondary opens on links. You can see there's all the links for that. Where these has got a whole lot of links missing, which is fine. That, by the way, allows to open the second choke. And I'm gonna start stripping this one and start rebuilding it. So this is what came in the carb kit: a couple of gaskets, a couple of washers and bits and bobs, and accelerator, plunger, needle and seat, a couple of jets. So that's quite cool. As with any project that you do, have a tub close by, so all the screws and fittings and springs and clips you can put in there. And when you're done, that tub must be empty. So on this carby, there was a lot of screws missing. It was only held with 2 screws, which is okay. I'll find other screws for it. I've got loads of Nikki spares. And then it also had no gasket on, which is fine. And although it's filthy, it's actually not in a bad condition. You can see that's fairly straight, it hasn't been damaged. It's got some damage on the casing here, which I'll fix with Prattley steel, make it look good again. Other than that, it seems okay. I'm just going to strip it down further, and as I assemble it, I'll explain the function of all the components. So when I opened the carby, I noticed that the one jet was missing. I'm not worried about it because here I've got 2 spare ones that I will use. There's no numbers on them, and that one there is stamped 60, so I'll just check the holes, and I'll also check the hole sizes. I'll compare that, and I'll also check what it says in the book, what it's supposed to be. So I'm good with that. I'm just going to put that in my tub. What concerns me is that cap was missing, which is okay because I've got a cap here on this one, and I'll use that cap, not a problem. But when I looked inside, and you unfortunately can't see that, but that, let me see if I can shine there with my torch and show you. See there, that jet has been badly damaged. So I must try and get that jet out, because that's an idle jet, and without it, it won't work. So I'm going to try and get the jet out, and if I get it out, I do have a spare one in there, which is cool. So I'm going to see if I can get the jet out before I carry on. So in here is a little non-return in this channel for the accelerator pump, because there's your excuse me, is your accelerator pump squirt, the little nozzle that sprays, and doesn't look so well in there. I'm going to spray it with carb cleaner and let it soak for a while. Now you can see also that idle jet. I'm going to have to try and drill it out. You do get a spare one in the kit. There's a spare one in the kit. You do get a spare one in the kit. So I'll drill it out and tap it clean and what have you. So I'm not worried about that. I'm just spray that and let it soak, and then I can carry on. I'm going to remove both auxiliary venturis just to get that whole chamber there properly clean and to make sure there's no corrosion inside. So that little pin there, inside there, is stuck or was stuck, and there's a little ball below it, and that pin looks like this. This is the one from the Chinese copy. So what I did is I filled the flow chamber with fuel. Side glass is full, and this pump plunger comes from this Chinese copy. And I also took my hammer, my little hammer, this little hammer, baby hammer, and just tapped it lightly, and I also just knocked lightly on the body over there, just a little bit. And then I did it again and again and again, and eventually, see there, I managed to get the ball loose. So that's fantastic. And if I close that with my finger, you'll now see it actually pumps. Half-heartedly, but it pumps. So the accelerator pump is working, and it will be working. And through that, I've also loosened the little ball in the bottom, because there's also a little non-return ball in the bottom. So job's a good one. See there, now it actually works. It's pumping fuel. Tricks of the trade. So the other ball sits below there. You can see there's the pin, and I've actually managed to loosen that pin now, and the other ball sits below there. So I'm going to take that out and just clean all of this. I'm going to soak this carby, so that all of this can come loose and all of that. I'll soak it overnight. So the ball in there was still stuck a little bit. I couldn't get it out. So I put some carb cleaner in the hole in the float bowl, removed the float bowl, and I simply just sprayed it loose and opened with a bit of carb cleaner. You can see all the rust on that little ball, but fortunately you do get new ones in the kit. So in the side there, I don't know if you can see, right down there, there's also a little hole. I can't show you. On the side, on the left hand side. I'm going to try and put my nozzle for the carb cleaner in there and see if I can spray this up like I did with the other one. So I want to split the two carb bodies, that cast iron piece from the aluminium piece, and to get to that screw over there, I must remove this vacuum plunger by just undoing those screws there and take everything off. So I'm going to remove that and then split those two casings, and then I'm going to soak both those parts in the ultrasonic cleaner, because that little ball, non-return ball, still doesn't want to come loose. So there's those three screws that hold it in place, plus this little cam chamber. This little cam that sits inside that chamber that holds it in place. I've removed it, and I'm going to undo those three screws, and then the vacuum pod will be off. So I've split the cast iron from the aluminium, and it's just 3 bolts. That one over there, and one over there, and then you literally just pick it up. And then that's your butterfly body section, your first choke and your second choke. It's a strong solid block of cast iron. This shaft is a little worn, so I'll have to have those bushes replaced. Otherwise it's fine, nothing wrong with it. Very strong, very sturdy. I did notice that thread was stripped, so I'll have to put new thread in there, and then in there, that's where the two main jets are, inside there. So I'm going to undo that quickly and then soak this until I can get that little plunger out, because it still doesn't want to come out. So okay, these three ears were bent in like that, and if you bend them back without warming it up, then you are going to break them off. So I've bent them a little bit. This one needs to go a little bit more. So what I do, you ask, how much do you warm it up? Well, so what I do is you put your little adjustable on and just give it a little bit of pressure with your finger, and then you warm up slightly, and then you'll feel when the material starts going like that. See, now it's starting to bend, and that's warm enough. And then you have a look, and that's fairly straight. This one can come a little bit more. And again, I put my adjustable on, a little bit of heat, and then you press a little bit, and you'll feel when it will start giving like that. See, start going. That's it. And you do it a little bit at a time until you get that nice and flat. So everything is coming out nice and clean. And I've rebushed that. So now I've got a new bushing on both sides. You can't see that side, but anyway, it's got a new bushing. So that's all good. I'm just going to flatten this on a piece of glass and a bit of sandpaper to make sure that there's no high spots on it. I'm going to do the same for there. I don't think it's necessary. This cast iron is quite strong. But like I told you guys, this was thready stripped. So this bolt on my Carby was extremely damaged and I couldn't use it again. So I took this one out of the Hong Kong car. It doesn't feel like much, but anyway, that's all I've got to go with. So I'm going to rethread that. I'm going to use one of these insert bushes like that. I don't want to use a helicoil there. And it actually cuts its own thread. I'm not going to record all of that. There's many guys on YouTube that do that. I actually turn them in with a bolt. Anyway, I'll do that just now. And then I see there's a little mark there. I'm just going to sandpaper all of that nice and flat as well. And this is the carb top. Also came out very nice. I must still close that up with a little bit of epoxy. I'm going to do that. And then we can start once the helicoil and the thread insert is in. Once the thread insert is in, I'll start the assembly of this Carby. So I've done this section on the glass and the sandpaper, and I'm convinced it's flat, or as flat as can be. But I'm not so happy with the other side. So I've put the insert in, and then if you look over there, I started filing it a bit. But if you look over there, there's low spots there. And there's some low spots there. And then also over here. So I'm just going to put it in my mill quickly. And just mill it flat. I didn't want to do that, but I'm going to do it. I want this Carby to be perfect. So I'm just going to mill that flat quickly. So I had this on the glass with a sandpaper, and that's pretty flat. I'm happy with that. Same with that side. That's pretty flat. I had this in my milling machine. That came out beautiful. So that's pretty flat. New thread in there, steel thread. So that's good. That side, pretty flat as well. The only surface that I need to check is that one. I'll do that a bit later, but I've got one more hurdle to sort out, and that's the idle jet that sits in there, and I must get that out. I've got a new one that came in the kit. I'm just going to drill that out, pull it out. So here's the new idle jet that comes in the kit. So it seats at the bottom on that angle there, because there's the jet size right at the bottom. So I've got to just carefully drill it and then get it out. So I'm gonna do that quickly, and then we can start assembly. So I've drilled it out. I used a 5mm drill. I had to drill that whole head away, but it came out. It actually fell out afterwards. And I used my MC6 tap to clean up the hole. So now we're good to go. I'm going to start assembling this baby. So okay, we're sort of ready for assembly. So there's a little bush that goes in there. And then with any luck, all of this will fit. I had this in just now to make sure that everything actually fits and it screws in and the length is right. So I just want to get everything going. I've decided to use the 2 screws from the donor carby because they actually look a bit better than mine. Because once I've got everything in, I'm going to put Loctite on those so that we don't sit with this problem again, that it comes loose. I just want to get it lined up, and once it's lined up, I'm going to tighten that one, and then I'll take it out, put Loctite on it, tighten it, and then I'll turn the carby around and I'll do the other two, but I don't want it to be skew. So I'm just going to Loctite that, tighten it, and I'll flip the carb over. Just remember, you can't put any bolt in there, because at the end there, it's got a calibrated bush. So you can't just, this is an M7, you can't just put an M7 bolt in there. It has to have the calibrated bush. Just remember that. So okay, I flipped it over. And remember, on this side, it takes the plate for the return spring. So that goes in there, other one goes in there. I'm not going to record as I tighten it, because that's quite boring. So alright, all 3 are in, and I can see that the gasket is pinched nicely all the way around. I'm very happy with that. The butterflies are free and moving, so that's good, no problem with that. I'm just going to give it a last little nip, not break it off, just a little nip. That's good. And these two, just a little nip. And remember, I did put some of this on, so it shouldn't come loose again. So that's good. Job done. Next bit that I want to do is I want to put the secondary throttles, vacuum activator, whatever you want to call it. I want to put that on. The inside here is the diaphragm that pulls open your chicken choke, and it operates through that hole. So there's an easy way of testing it. If you move that little rod, you'll hear there's something moving inside. You'll hear that. But if you turn it around, and do the same, and close that hole, then it becomes more difficult to move it. You see there. And if you push it in and close the hole, it will stay there. Then now you know your diaphragm is not damaged. Let go and it opens. Cool. So that works. So you get a little gasket where it goes on. It comes in the kit. There's the gasket. So we're going to put the gasket on, and we're going to just bolt this whole thing together. It's pretty simple and straightforward. There we go. Next thing that goes in there is this little stopper, if you dare call it. It's actually the connection between the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is connected to that little channel, and that will draw air at vacuum, which will actuate this. And then this is now this little rod here. That little rod is now supposed to operate the butterfly, and that's what this little device does. So that needs to go in there, and then we're going to lock it up. So the easiest for me, and I'm hoping you're going to see, is to take a small screwdriver, push that out of the way, and then drop this little cam in, and then you will be able to get that over there like that. And then it gets a little split pin over that, so it doesn't fall off. That's it. So the next thing we have to do is to put this little device on. It actually hooks there, and that acts as the return spring. This here is actually the return spring for that second butterfly, and this hooks onto your first choke to prevent it from opening when it's not supposed to open, and it will allow it to open when it is supposed to open, if that makes any sense. So this literally just goes on like that. So that acts as your return spring, like that. And I'm just going to put the 2 screwies in, and then that bit's done. Now your second butterfly, second choke, has got a proper return spring on it. It'll help it turn, close properly. Cool. So next we have to get on with the first choke. So first thing I'm going to do is just put the idle speed screw in, and then that little bracket that it pushes against, that goes over there. And then this is a device that helps with a choke butterfly, and that's got a bush that goes over there. And now the rest of these things that goes on here, I'm going to strip from the Hong Kong carb, because I didn't actually get it with the scarp. So bear with me, I'm just going to strip it off there, then I'll show you how I put everything together. So okay, next we put this on, and that slits through there. That's actually bent. I'll bend it straight just now, and this allows the second choke to be closed and opened when need be. I'll just bend that straight. Then next this goes on where your throttle hooks into, and the bolt and the nut, and then that's that done on the throttle. The return spring goes to the top here. Apologies, the return spring goes that side, but anyway, we'll sort that out in a minute. So I've tightened it up, and this device operates like this. So this spring will allow your second choke to go open when needed. See there? That's how that operates. Cool. So next thing to do is to put the auxiliary venturis back. Pretty straightforward. You do get new gaskets for it. Just make sure they're nice and clean. Get the gasket in place, get the venturi in place, put the screws in. It's really straightforward. There's not much to it. Simple as that. And then you put your screws in. So I looked at the air correction jets, and that one is a 60, and the book says the first and the second choke must both be 60, and these two are the ones out of that donor carb They're not marked, but I can see that it's exactly the same size, and I can check it with my needles. So I'm going to just put both 60s in there, and that's that part of it done. Now I can move over to the accelerator and the idle circuits and get that sorted. So the next thing we're going to do is put the idle jet back and put the cap on. I just want to put that in there. It always helps. I just did check in the book. It is the right size. The nice thing about these kits that I purchased, on the back they give you, for the model, see, this is for the L18 1800 720 pickup Datsun, and it gives you all the jet sizes for what it's supposed to be. I also checked in my manual that I've got the correct sizes for this Carby. So remember, this was damaged and I had to drill it out and everything, so I've got to be careful not to damage it or over tighten it. But that's it, that's nice and tight, and that's right to the bottom. And now I'm just put the cap on, and then that sorts that little bit out. Next, accelerator pump. So okay, time for the accelerator pump. In the kit you do get new balls, so there's the two little balls, and one goes in there. You'll get it in the right place now. The other one just falls in there. I want to put a little bit of this in there, just like that, and then the pin goes in, and that's the non-return for the little nozzle over there. And we just put the cap on, and that cap's got to seal properly, so it's going to be nice and tight. And then the ball in there, you need to make sure that it goes into the hole. There we go, that's in the hole. And then this spring goes on top to keep it in place. I'll show you that now. So that you just put in there and move it down nicely. Don't scratch the sides. Move it down till it's at the bottom, and it holds the spring in place. Just move it down like that, a little bit at a time. But when I'm done, I'll show you what it looks like. So that's what it looks like in the bottom. This ball is in place. There you can see it, and that spring is over it, and that's that part of it done. We're nearly ready to put this Carby together. So next is to put the carb top on. So I've got a gasket over here. Put it in place, and then make sure your carb top is nice and flat and your power valve system isn't bent. And then if all of that's good, we can put it on. And there we go. Now we can start putting the screws on, and it's starting to look like a carburetor. There's brackets that goes on here. I'll put the brackets on just now. I just want to get the Carby in its place, the carb top in its place, and we can start putting on all the additional brackets. So on this side of the Carby, we've got this bracket that fits there for the manual choke, and it's got little bits there to go in. So to get that in, you literally need to turn it around, hook it in, and then get it past this way, and then put it in place. Put the two screws in, and then that part of it is done. There's another link that comes from the bottom. It clips in there, but I'll put that link in just now. There we go. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to put the two main jets in. Obviously carby is upside down, and that's the first choke and that's the second choke. And according to this, the 102 goes on the first choke and the 170 on the second choke. And there's my jets, and that's the 102. You can clearly see the difference. That goes in the first choke, and that goes in the second choke. And then we simply screw them in with a screwdriver and then put the caps on. I'm not going to bore you with that. Once that's done, we'll continue to put the float and all of that together. So the float level is quite interesting on this model. Float simply, just one thing. Remember I said it's important to make sure that your power valve system isn't bent, because if it's bent it's not going to push nicely on there, and also it's going to rub against the side. You see that one, I just need to give it a little bit of a bend, but anyway, I'll do that just now. So the float just slides in over there on the pin, and to stop it from all the way going down, there's an adjuster there, and to adjust your float level from outside the carb, you actually get different shims that goes on the needle and seat, and the needle and seat screws in from the top like that. So you can adjust the float level, well, I say remotely, you don't have to do it the conventional way. So if the float level is too low, you're going to unscrew that, you're going to put more shims in, so it lifts the needle valve inside, and it's actually as simple as that. If it's not right, turn it down, but I'll show you that once there's fuel in the carb. I'm just going to put it together now with all the shims in place. Now I want to put the float glass on. You get a new rubber seal for there. It fits in like that. Make sure you push it into that little slot all around, and then the little glass goes on. And what's so cool about these, they actually show you where the float level is supposed to be. So you can't get it wrong. It's impossible to get it wrong. See? There's also a gasket that comes over here. It's not to seal anything, it's just to protect the glass from the metal. But my metal strip doesn't look so well. I'm just going to wire brush it and screw it closed. You can see there's indentations there where it was over tightened previously. So I'm just going to turn it around and just knock it back with maybe a 8mm screw or something, just to get it back to normal again. So there is a gasket that goes in there, but that gasket is not to make it seal or anything. It's just to protect the glass from the metal. That's all it is. So just put the screws in, and then that's the job done. So after I've put everything together and tested the accelerator pump, so all I did is I removed the float, the needle and seat, and I put my little funnel in there and I filled it up with fuel. I also needed to check if my side glass didn't leak, but anyway, and I tested the accelerator pump and it didn't pump, but now it does. Hear that nice squirt? And all it was, that nozzle was blocked, so I had to strip everything out to get my carb cleaner, that red little nozzle of it, to spray it backwards to clean it. So that was quite a mission, but anyway, it's now working. So I've put the carby back together again, and I did the epoxy there on the pin. This pin was loose, so I've actually, my original carby had this long pin in. That pin comes from that donor carb, and this link comes from that donor carb. So I've just changed the pin over, and I've put a bit of epoxy there that it doesn't come out. I see I must put some more epoxy there, but I've done the epoxy on the other side, and I think it looks okay. I'm not too happy with this link. I must put little washers and pins in there. It's working. Look, it's working, and it is actually squirting. See, it works fantastic. But I need to put a washer there behind that. Maybe pinch that a little narrower so it's deeper on the shaft. And then I just want to put these split pins through here. And then put that spring in. I don't know how necessary that is, but put that spring in there. And then we'll take it from there. So I've put the carby on my van just to check where the float level lies. And you can see it's pretty spot on. And the carby actually runs very nice. So there you have it. Carby done. In my opinion, much better carb than a Weber. Any day. I think if Weber made if Nikki made 32, 36 carbs and 36 and so on and so forth, it would have been way more popular today than what the Weber is today. It's just a much better car. But I suppose it's also the quality. You know, it's expensive to build a car like that because it's a decent car. You know, the cast iron base, and it's just a brilliant car. Anyway, car be done. Hope somebody learned something from us. Hope I could help someone. Have a lovely day. Keep well.